Hello everyone and welcome to the Medbay with Quantum Jump Medical. I'm Bob Harkin, and with me as always is my intrepid leader, Mike Spector.
How's it going?
It's good. I'm just going to get crazier and crazier with your title and how I introduce you, I think, is my plan. Maybe I shouldn't have announced that plan, but I like it.
Oh boy, I can't wait for like 5 episodes from now when my intro is like 7 times longer than our entire intro together.
You're going to be like Daenerys Targaryen, just the epic intro that she always has.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we're back with another episode. We have decided to talk about engineering for this one. I think this is a big topic for us. I mean, when we saw it at CitizenCon was kind of the first time they kind of really went in depth with it, and there were some extra features that we didn't really know were tied in with engineering, I'll say. I think we all got excited when we saw the fire suppression fire team thing, and that was specifically tied in with engineering. But we've been pretty lucky that we've gotten to try it out because it's only an eptu so far, but it is coming with 323. People will be able to get their hands on it. It's coming to Arena Commander, not necessarily the PU, but it will be coming to the Arena Commander, so people will be able to try it out. Right now, you can fly the A2, which is the only one currently that has the kind of engineering console that you can interact with. Supposedly, you can also fly the Gladius in that mode, but it is more just to be testing, basically shooting at the A2 while you're flying around. I've gotten to try it out. You've got to try it out. So tell me your initial thoughts playing around with engineering mode.
So it being in the eptu was definitely more of a shock. I wasn't expecting it to come anywhere near this soon. And it's a lot more than I had anticipated, to say the least. I expected like, oh, hey, my shield's down. Cool, let me put a new fuse in. You're good to go. It's like that, but there's a way bigger, intricate system. It's really cool, really fun.
Initial, like, kind of looking at it is, like I said, you get to interact with the console. It is a holographic map, so it's kind of like the mini map and kind of like the new star map where you're actually seeing the entirety of your ship when you go into that mode. And I'm sure it's all tying into the same system because we are getting that new star map and those location maps and ship maps. So it's all tied together. They can set different things when you look at different consoles. So you go into the console, you're looking at the map, you can see all of your weapons, you can see the network of connections that where your power is going. So you see the console, the relays. So there's multiple relays throughout the ship. In some areas, there's like multiple directions that it goes. But I thought it was interesting, especially for the A2, again, is the only one we're seeing right now. The A2, if you're in the cockpit, there's only one series of relays that goes into the cockpit. So I know when we shut some things down, all of the doors got locked and you couldn't get out. So I think it's interesting how, and I don't know if they'll update that or if that's kind of the final look of it, because you'd think most ships would want to have multiple relay series. You'd want to have redundancies, backups to that. But at the same time, I'm sure it's a gameplay thing. They're trying to balance stuff where if somebody's trying to break into your ship and they can get to your relay, then they can knock you out or lock you into a place and kind of manage it that way. Or the opposite way, you can lock other people out. You can cut off their access. So I think that's interesting. And all of the relay or fuse boxes have at least 2 fuses. I think there are a couple that have 3. So you do have that redundancy. So if you're taking fire on a specific system, they'll knock out one fuse first, and then it'll go to the second one and third one and so on. Yeah, what are you thinking on how that's all going to play out? Like I've been listening to some people talk about how you can take out like the radar and you won't be able to target your enemy anymore, and it really kind of defines that subcategory. The new mode where you can zoom in on sub targets, so you can take out the engines or the radar, or hopefully in the future life support. Life support's going to be coming in eventually with engineering, that kind of thing. So you'll be able to target those systems and be able to take those out with this new system. But you'll also be able to hopefully repair those systems, and you'll also be able to kind of get those back up in working order, having an engineer on board. And I think one of the other interesting parts about this is it really does change the way that people are going to be flying ships. I know I kind of joke with you all the time about you flying your Polaris Solo, but it really is going to make it a little more difficult. Obviously, there will be opportunities where you will be able to do it on your own. I mean, you can, while you're in quantum travel, you can go back and repair stuff, or hopefully eventually we're all talking about NPC crews and AI blades and all that. Obviously, the NPC crew would be the necessary for that specialization of the engineering. But I think it's interesting how that's all going to play together and how it's going to potentially change how we play the game. I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast, I think, how this patch especially, I mean, we didn't lose cargo in 323. We're not getting it in the 323 patch. We were getting it in on a .x patch. But just this patch alone, even still what we get is fundamentally changing how we look at the game, how we play the game, and then we're getting to getting a first test and first look at this new thing that's going to even more fundamentally change how we play the game, how do we interact with it. I mean, I think we're very lucky, and we'll talk more about us being in an org, and especially on the medical side, how that's going to play together and how we'll be able to group up. But I think it is going to change what types of ships solo players are going to be able to fly, or they'll have to think more about what they grab when they take out a specific ship. It'll kind of depend on what type of gameplay they're doing, what gameplay loop. So if they're more cargo and they're not really going to be in dangerous situations, it might be a little easier to take on some of the medium-sized ships, I would say. I think it's going to be a lot harder to take on like larger ships solo, but I'm really looking forward to I mean, I've always kind of said I'm excited for the multi-crew kind of aspect, and I think we have a division in the org for engineers, or at least a subcategory for engineers. So we've already kind of started looking ahead to how that's going to play together. But yeah, talk a little bit about what you're thinking with that, with multi-crew, and how engineering is going to kind of play into that, or how you think it is.
So yeah, definitely, I love flying bigger ships. It's kind of like my thing. I like the bigger ships. So the Polaris is definitely a ship that I plan to solo. And even though I'm still probably going to ignore what I'm going to say right now, continue to fly it solo when it's out. But yeah, if I get into a firefight and something gets damaged, one of my power plants goes out, my plan of action would be to run and repair in quantum the best I can, or with the new master modes, I could just switch over to nav mode and just fly faster than them, outrun them. They won't be able to shoot me. So that'd be kind of like just my plan. But once AI's in, it's definitely going to make it easier for the solo player to fly the larger ships that they have. But in the meantime, I'm definitely down for them forcing multi-crew gameplay at this point. Like I said, right now it's a very early stage. It's a lot more than I expected. You mentioned earlier when we were playing with the fuses, we shut down all the doors in the A2 hallway. We were trapped in the cockpit until we replaced it. I'm okay with that, but give functionality to the cutter multi-tool to where we can cut the doors open properly, or, a way for us to pry the doors open somehow so we can continue to move through when those systems go down. I don't know how in depth you look at the graph, but there is actually batteries on the A2. So if your power plants go down, you have sub batteries that can run your doors, your life support systems, and kind of keep you alive for just a little bit longer while you can do necessary repairs. They weren't working in the Arena Commander, as far as I know. I could not get them to work properly. And when you do aim at your components with the multi-tool, it does give you the option to repair. The repairing was not working, but it does actually say repair, and then it had needs RMC. Even though I had RMC on me, they still want to let me do the repair, but it looks like they are already working on that functionality in engineering to where if something goes down, you just, for the time being, tier 0, tier 1, use your multi-tool and repair it like how we do with the ships, RMC. The hole in there, you just kind of fill it in. So it's not going to fully repair it, but it'll be enough to get you moving.
Right, yeah. I've definitely heard that people have been talking about how much they've been improving it and changing it and updating it just within the EPTU, because, we've had it for a couple weeks now that people have been able to play it, and we're both Wave 1, so we've been able to play it a little longer. It just went to Wave 2, and like I said, people have been saying that they've just been adding more and more features and taking feedback and tweaking how the shielding and all that stuff goes. So they are making those improvements and adding that functionality. Hopefully we'll be able to get to play around with the repair. I think it's definitely cool. I brought this up to you before. I had a hot take about the engineering console. I think it, even with in the future when they get to life support and all of that stuff, I think it would make way more sense to be a flat schematic style diagram where you're interacting with things and it's showing you the lines of the electricity, how it's actually going, instead of a straight line across the ship. I would like to see how the power routes around the edges of the ship, and then you'd be able to switch between the floors like you do in any other flat map. I think it would be way easier to interact with. I've seen people talking about how when you're in a fight and you're getting thrown around and it's shaking the camera, I think it would also help that as well. It would be way easier if you have a flat map and you're not trying to move a hologram around. I'm not surprised that they went with this way. Like I said, it's all tied together with the map system, so it's all just one. They don't want to do multiple types of mapping, so I totally understand why they're choosing to do it. I just think it would, in my mind, an engineer would want just a flat diagram, structural, just showing exactly where the lines are, where the wiring is, all that kind of thing. I would rather see it that way, but like I said, I understand why they're doing it as the holographic map, but I think it would just help people, like I said, especially when they're getting thrown around, to be able to kind of easier interact with the system. But I don't know. Those are just that's just my hot take on the holographic side of the map. Like you were saying with the cutter tools and all the functionality of things that we already have in the game, and also things that we're kind of looking forward to. I know we've kind of had debates about the Legionnaire and the hacking. I think it'd be cool, especially as medics, if we could if somebody calls for us to help them, I think it would be nice for us to be able to hack that initial door, but then be able to hack into other doors and other systems once we're on the ship to get to the person to rescue them. Obviously, larger ships, people are going to have multi-crew anyway, so it's going to be a little less likely where we would need to break into the ship, because once we're on board, most likely somebody's going to let us in. But I still think there are some opportunities for engineering, and that whether it's the hacking mechanic or having a specific engineer on board with us that can run in and kind of take over the ship and start opening doors and stuff for us, I think that would be kind of cool to have somebody that could do that. Like, one of our regular engineers would go with us on those missions and be able to, like, we'd have our security guys kind of guarding him while he's trying to get all the doors open, and then get to the person that called us, or get to a down person, or whatever it is. And I think that would be a nice tie-in and a nice way for kind of our gameplay that we're looking forward to. I really think that would be cool. I know, like I said, you and I have kind of had some discussions and some disagreements on how that's all going to work, but
So basically what you just asked for is when we, as Quantum Jump, go into someone's, let's say, hammerhead, and we need to open a door. We have an engineer at a engineering station or at a hacking station opening the door for us inside the hammerhead. So essentially what you are asking for is someone to be R2-D2 while we run through the Star Destroyer, opening the doors for us.
yes, exactly. That's exactly what I want.
Yeah. So then we need the engineer, and then we need one person to be on radio, just keep going, 3PO, 3PO!
Yes, precisely. That's exactly what we should do.
Got it. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Also, I do want to point out that you talked about the map and how you weren't a big fan of it being the 3D schematic on the engineering terminal.
Yes.
But you also understand, as you said, it is basically the exact same map that you have in the star map.
Yeah.
The one thing that you were the most excited for, and I think the only real panel that you went to at CitizenCon was the star map one, because you're like, I love the star map. It's amazing. It's amazing. They put the star map in the game for you on a smaller screen, and you're like, I fucking hate it.
That is true. Yes. And technically it was the UI and star map panel. So screw you.
Doesn't help you. You just made it worse for yourself. Because it's a UI.
True. But again, this is a specialized UI, I think. And so, yes, I am so excited for the map, because I came in a lot later than you and a lot of people did. But I'm still newer or have been around longer than some people. But that was my biggest complaint coming into the game, was just trying to navigate the star map that you and everybody else and I have been dealing with for a long time. Because it is old. It was made on Flash. It was not good. It's still like you clip through planets. It has improved, actually. I'll be honest, because you used to scroll in too far, and then you would not know, and you wouldn't be able to back out. You wouldn't be able to do anything. You'd have to close it, open it back up again to get back to like where you could actually see the planets. So it actually, interestingly enough, has improved since when I started playing, because you used to not be able to kind of get your bearings and get back to where you could actually see what you were doing. So, but yes, I have been looking forward to the map update for a long time. I'm glad it is coming in. I just, like I said, this is a specialized mission and console and UI that I think needs something special for it. And again, totally understand it's all the same system. They don't want to build multiple versions of the map, because then they'd have to, that's the one they would have to redesign, because they wouldn't be able to just say in engineering mode, this stuff shows up, versus having to redo the whole thing and saying like, all right, now we have to map out the ships again, because they've been talking about that. They've been slowly over the course of the EPTU been adding locations and ships to the map, to the mini-map system. So we are seeing improvements. Like I said, I'm just, I don't know. I just think it should be more specialized. Would like to see it more specialized, and it would make it easier to use, because sometimes I feel like you're trying to click on something and then the hologram moves, and then now I have to reconfigure it and try to figure out where I am on the ship. So I think just sometimes it could be easier if it was just like a schematic layout on the engineering console. But I mean, I think it's cool, a cool first implementation, and I do want to play around with it more, because I mean we probably spent a couple weekends with it, but not really. We haven't done a whole lot of in-depth testing, which I would like to do more of, especially once more of our crew can get in there and play around with it. I think we should do some. I mean, we can play around with the private servers and get our guys in there and do some testing on that sub-targeting. I think is going to be an important part of this engineering system. And then just playing around with, I know we kind of, like you said, we were pulling relays and fuses out to see what they would do if it shut down anything, if we noticed anything, or if it didn't do anything, or if I moved this over here, if I shut the engine down from the seat, could I turn it on from the engineering console, that kind of thing. I mean, we were playing around with that, but I think having some of those battles with just and flying around a little more will be kind of fun to get a little more hands-on experience and to just learn the system inside and out. Because I know we've talked about that, where we want to be experts at things that we need to be experts at. And then we've also talked about, you brought this up, how we need to have specific ships where we have specific people that know it down to the nuts and bolts. I mean, we want them to be extreme experts in specific ships, because that'll make us more efficient as a group. Obviously, we're doing medical. We need to not have to waste our time thinking about, where was that relay? We have a person we want to have a person that knows exactly where all those things are. And obviously we want as many people as we can to have that extensive knowledge, but we know, I mean, everybody knows there's going to be one person who's really good at that and really good at mapping and just knowing all of that information. And then we'll have people a little more generalized who can help that person out when they need it. So I'm really looking forward to being able to kind of narrow down and specialize our offerings, what ships we take out on a regular basis. We kind of have those things now. I mean, we're pretty much a Carrick and a C8R and maybe and an Ursa usually is kind of our setup. But if we can, when we go into the future and get more ships and get larger ships and different ships, we can kind of figure that out and specialize. I mean, obviously a Polaris is going to be a big part of our or going forward, because we have multiples, and I know you're very excited about it. But I think it'll be great when we get that in, and then we can play around a little more with that engineering. And like I said, just have somebody that just knows the insides and out. And I assume you will be one of those people, but then we can also help train our other people, and especially people that are very interested in the engineering side. I'm very excited to play around with it, because I think being that kind of specialist or being kind of support is something that we're all, as a medical org, we're all very interested in the support side of things. Yeah. And so I think that just plays into it and goes along with it. Like I said, we're looking forward to kind of taking on some of those other roles, and we should talk about kind of some of the things we think is coming with engineering, or we know. I mean, like I said, we talked about the fire propagation system is a big part of engineering. is tied in with the engineering system. And we've talked about it before when we first initially saw it in CitizenCon. We all kind of looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, like this is," we were all pretty excited about this thing.
I remember seeing the fire thing and looking over at Bob and be fire rescue team.
Yes.
And the first word out of his mouth was yes. and at that point in time, like the display is still going. Like they're still showing us more. And we're already back and forthing on what it can entail. Like, hey, should it be its own separate team? Should it just be part of the standard training? We really got into it. But yeah, the fire thing looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna put a large hazard into ships, especially like the larger ships. Because it's one thing to remove the oxygen from an area, which is also coming. And, if you don't have a helmet, you're just dead. Versus fire, which can be prolonged injury. So it needs to be taken care of, and it will also damage the ship from the inside out.
Yeah. Like you were saying, we had these discussions about what we're going to do with that. And I think having those specialized teams that can, because you always hear in sci-fi movies and TV shows, they always have the damage control team and the fire team go to subsection A. Like that part really has me excited. So we can have you'll have your normal duties while you're on a multi-crew ship, but then if there's a fire and you're on the fire team, you're going. You're specially trained. I'm excited for that part. Like you said, it's gonna play into the damage. It's going to, again, that engineer is going to have to know, all right, here's the bulkhead that I can shut off. Here's the bulkhead I can shut off. And now I'm going to vent all the air, or I'm going to freeze that section out maybe. I don't know that they really talked about temperature control, but that would be kind of cool too, where you could just drop the temperature so low that the oxygen gets sucked or gets lowered in that area and it puts out the fire like that. Like I said, venting the life support and oxygen will be one way to play that. It's going to lead to what type of armor or what type of clothing certain people wear, because they'll be able to run in there. So it's really going to tie in with hopefully the changing out your outfits, that kind of type of thing. We've kind of talked about how I really want to do it more where we role play. Obviously, there's not much reason to take off your armor now, but it'll be a better reason to kind of play with who does that change out, who's always wearing armor, who's in the uniform, who's kind of running into those dangerous situations all the time. It kind of ties into all that stuff, and it's just like you said, another hazard that we have to think about, and it's going to be pretty cool to kind of tie into the engineering. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays. And again, that network that we were talking about with the way engineering works, how that kind of plays in, and if it's if there's a fire on this panel, does it knock out that line? So then you have to reroute everything around it, that kind of thing. I think that'd be, it sounds like that's what they want. I think that'd be very cool and very interesting to kind of have to do that engineering play, have to figure out all the routes around to moving the power and the controls of everything. So you could knock out half a ship by just starting a fire. It would be cool.
Yeah.
But again, having those teams that can kind of take on those hazards kind of all plays into that. Like I said, the engineering will have to know how to take care of it, but then having those teams be able to go in and kind of finalize that, we're very excited about that. I guess what other kind of tools and things that do you think we'll be getting with engineering? Not tools, systems, I guess, that I'm trying to think of. Like, obviously, the fire propagation team system. We've talked about the life support. What else do you think is going to tie into that engineering system? Obviously, it affects the entire ship in general. But how do you see that kind of, or what other things do you see happening with that?
So other things I see is definitely a more in-depth power management system. So currently, right now, we have the triangle, which is weapon, shields, engine. That's kind of like all you have. So maybe being able to reroute the past systems elsewhere in a more in-depth thing. Think of Starfield, for instance, how it had the graph of like 8 different things, and you could put like a point into what you want and pull down a point. So something more like that, I think, would be pretty cool. And we can see something like that, like, oh, hey, maybe the back life support system's out, but the front life support system's working. So let me put more power into the front one to expand its radius throughout the ship. So that way maybe a better engineer can get to the back while still being connected to life support. Or one thing that I know for sure will be coming is gravity. Being able to turn off the gravity in the ship. And that would be something to be a really good deterrent versus pirates. When they start introducing more specialized armor, you have mag boots. So, you have all your security wearing mag boots, turn off the gravity, they can keep their firm stance on the ground and accuracy to shoot the pirates that are just kind of like floating around, in the future. So that'll be something, pretty cool to see. But like you said, opening up, think of the A2, right? Let's say there's a fire in the turret room with all the seats. So opening up the door from that, opening up the lower hatch, and then opening up the big cargo base to just suck all of the oxygen out of the whole ship in that area, while keeping oxygen in the other rooms, the living quarters, the front hallway, and cockpit. They keep all their oxygen because they're not being vented. I know while playing with it, you get the option to open and close the doors as well. So that's already in there. So that's something that we could definitely see coming. The only thing is the last time I played, the big cargo doors were not on the grid system. It was all internal doors. So they need to add the big cargo doors, exterior doors, to that. But then it opens up an opportunity where if somebody gets on your ship, they can open up the exterior doors and let everybody else in.
Like I said, it'll be nice to get them, get all of the systems working on that. I know I've watched a few people who were running back and forth and did figure out that thing where you can lock open the doors with using the engineering console. So that will be kind of helpful for when you're doing the day-to-day stuff, because it is a struggle and frustrating to have to stand by each door. So it'll be nice to be able to. I mean, we've had times where we were able to lock open doors, but this will be kind of a system where we can go into and say, I want this one to stay open and that kind of thing. And it'll be interesting to see how they balance with the pirate gameplay, because like I was kind of saying to you the other day how I'm not a big fan of the look of the relays or the fuses right now, because it's just a big gash is the word that keeps coming into my mind. It's just kind of a big ugly box kind of strapped to the side of to the wall, and it's kind of ugly, and it's open. Like there's no doors, there's no nothing that's kind of like locking those things in there. So obviously we know, and they've talked about before, that it'll be kind of moved to be in with some of the components. We've seen it in the past where it's more of a like on the side of a component kind of thing. So I assume it'll be there. At least there'll be a door. There will be something to where it closes and I assume locks. So if somebody does board your ship, they would have to break in, hack into that system or cut it open or something like that. So there's going to be that kind of gameplay. But like you said, it'll be cool to see if they can get in there and open up the outer doors and that kind of thing. And like I said, let other people in. Yeah, again, it's going to be interesting to see how that pirate gameplay works, how that like boarding action works with those, tying in with the engineering system. I know they've talked about just having the relays accessible, but then now you think about the engineering console and depending on the ship where that is. Like we said, for the A2, it's on the bridge, so it's the furthest and hardest to get to place on the ship. So they're not going to be easily be able to just jump on a console and kind of vent everything or open up everything or lock everything down. They'll have to kind of fight their way up to there. But if you think about some of the other ships where the engineering is in actually the engineering bay, or like on the Carrack, it has its own separate engineering bay. So all they have to do is get back there, and if they can get to a console that would be back there, they would have access to that stuff. And there's still a lot of fighting to do to get to it, but there's a few less people that you would have to go through to get to that, and a few less heavy doors that you would have to break in and get through to get to that system. So looking into the future, you'll have to think more about that. Where do we station security? Where do we have extra people to kind of watch those systems and be able to kind of fight off the bad guys if they're boarding us?
Yeah,
that'll be kind of cool. And again, having the engineer to know where all those systems are and where all the fuses and relays and all that are, to be able to assign people there will be kind of cool.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier too. The engineers, knowing the ships, and it's something that we already have in place as of now, which is waiting for gameplay, where our basic members, which is what we call Tier 4, it has basic engineering in it. So it will probably include the Cutlass Red, a CAR, and more than likely the Apollo once that's in game. It's going to include those 3 major ships that we will use on a more day-to-day basis. And then there are higher class engineerings that people will be able to do. But every member will have the basics of, at least those 3 ships.
Right. And it'll be the kind of an overview and like how to swap out your fuses and how to take care of your ship, like you said, on those smaller ships. And then maybe some of the more basic stuff of like the larger ships. So though I guess the way I'm thinking about it is like somebody that specializes has that higher tier, the engineering 201 or whatever, will be in charge, but then they'll be able to direct our lower tier guys to, hey, go over to this hallway, replace that fuse there, that kind of thing, repair this or whatever. I think that could be a good way for us to kind of differentiate and still have somebody be able to help out.
In charge.
But then, have that person that is in charge and has that specialization. Like you said, we want all of our members to be able to do some engineering and be able to take care of themselves and take care of their ships, but also to be able to fit in when we move to those larger ships, when we have larger ops or when we have to go further to do some of those ops, we'll be able to have them as regular crew members on our larger ships and be able to kind of fill in roles where like I said, we have higher tier specializations and have those specialists that know all the systems, know all the parts of the ship, but then they'll be able to direct people to where they need them to go. So we're thinking through all that stuff. We're talking about all that stuff. We have those discussions all the time and just kind of figuring out where people fit in and where our training fits in, getting people to a basic level. I guess I think of us as kind of like specialists. We are, again, that support kind of role, and we can take on some of those specialties, and we want to be a step above the average citizen, I think. We want to have all of our members have kind of an understanding and even I could kind of see this as part of our logistics and like our rearm repair. We could help people with their engineering. Obviously, we're not going to ride along on their ship with them and do all their engineering. But if they're stuck out somewhere and need repair on their systems, we'll be able to go in and know. We'll be able to know and how to fix those kind of, especially like the more solo ships. We'll be pretty well experts on that stuff. But then once we get to those multi-crew ships, we can help with the training and help with other people. If they are broke down, we'll be able to go rescue them. The search and rescue kind of part of our org is something we're passionate about, and again, that support role that we do really kind of ties all in with that, and knowing engineering, and again, having our, like you said, having our basic level people being experts on certain ships and being able to at least understand how it works, we'll be able to go in and help others with that type of thing. I know we talk about that all the time, about how we do offer trainings for other people. So, I mean, that's definitely something that can tie in, and something that we could help people out with, because we will have that understanding. Like you said, you and I especially are going to go in and do the like hardcore tweaks and figuring it out, and then we're going to pass that along to our other members, and again, have some of those experts, and then people that are very knowledgeable about that. I'm excited to kind of play around with that and get that going, where we can kind of know all that stuff and know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, I mean, the org is the way I see it going, because even though the name is Quantum Jump Medical is nowhere near where we stop. We do repair, rearm, refuel, mining, engineering in the future. Yeah, we do a little bit of everything, to where I think we're more of a Swiss Army knife. We got all the new doodads and knickknacks. We do just about everything you're going to need us to do. And, that's kind of like where we're going. And, like you said, you and me definitely, I can't wait for engineering to really kind of dive down deep and, get into all the nooks and crannies of everything that they're going to give us. And then in the future, it's just something I do with every aspect of the game. They changed up how we do mining. So one of the guys who was really good at mining, I'm like, hey, get me up to date on mining. I had Bob help me get up to date on refueling, because I haven't done it in so long that I forgot how to do it. But, I think our members having a basic knowledge of certain things helps. And then we do have the advanced tiers for everything else, and engineering will be one of them. And, as we push forward, the Polaris is one step, but, we do have at Anidris, we do have Krakens, we have all these bigger ships, which, our engineers, no, absolutely not. Get that out of here. I will shoot it with my Polaris. But we have all these ships coming, and engineering right now we have it as two tiers. We have the basic tier that everybody learns, and then the advanced tier, and it's probably going to keep getting bigger. We'll have a subsection for just our fighters, subsection for our dropships, our carriers, our this and that's. There's so much there, and putting 200 ships onto one person. Hey, remember these 200 ships? I don't even know if I can do all that. That's just too much. So we're going to have to really kind of, hey, this is tier 1. These are the ships you need. Tier 2, these are the ships. Tier 3, 4, 5. However tiers that we need to do. So engineering is going to be way bigger than I think a lot of people anticipate. Because, with the EPTU patch, I haven't really seen much about engineering. I see a lot of posts about the Copians and the star map and this and that, distribution centers, and nobody's talking about engineering. And I think people are going to be in a real big shock if, with as far as it is in EPTU right now, I wouldn't be surprised if not 3.23, but the 4.0 patch, if that's what we're getting next, if they drop engineering in that with Pyro. I think people will be in a really big shock, and they won't know what to do.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. We've talked about how most likely those larger ships are going to come around the same time as Pyro, because it is a further distance, and you'll need some of those carriers and that type of thing, like the Polaris, and hopefully the Galaxy comes soon around that time. But it would make sense to drop engineering at that time and get people to kind of understand how that all works and getting them accustomed to it. I've seen a couple people. I mean, Salty Mike's probably the one that I've seen the most talk about it. But like you say, he's really the only one that I've seen talking about it. It's not on Reddit all that much. It's not like even Spectrum. I haven't really seen it too much. Yeah, getting people to kind of play around with it. And I think because it's an Arena Commander in EPTU, I think is also something not a lot of people are jumping in yet. They're wanting to go to the distribution centers, or they're wanting to go find the animals. So kind of that is kind of where we have that specialization and excitement that we do jump into Arena Commander and play around with the new nerdy thing. I think sometimes
that was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
In EPTU, you know, I made my character and I went straight to Arena Commander.
Yep.
I was like, I want to check out engineering. I can hear like the Copians. I love them. The distribution centers look cool. The star map looks awesome. Like all that stuff looks great. But you know what? I was like, you know what? I want to look at this and see how far along it was. And like I said earlier, you know, I was beyond surprised on how far and how well it's working. There's a few things that do need to be tweaked before. We need an option to repair the components that are damaged. And we need an option to open the doors that are locked out. Those are the only two real gripes I have. You know, if they give us an option with the cutter, or even hold F for a while and it slowly like kind of pulls the doors open, something, you know, like that. Or Bearing, the company Bearing in game, actually has a door opener or door wedge. You put it on a door and it actually like hooks in and rips the doors open and holds it open for you. It's an actual item in the game files that they've worked on before. I don't know how far they went onto it, but they did work on it for a little bit because it's a Squadron 42 asset, I believe. So it's something that we could potentially see come with the engineering to open up the doors that are jammed locked. And that'll work on both sides. You know, it works for us if we're locked out of a room, and it works for the pirates if they're locked out of a command center. You know, they can open up the doors, force them open, and push their way in. So fix those two things, or add those two things, I should say, not fix because it's not broken, but add those two things of repairing the components, maybe up to like 50% capacity. You know, your coolers go out. Maybe you can't run all your shields. You got two size 2 shields, your coolers go out. You can only run one shield now. Or, you know, your shields break down, you know, they only 50% now. Same with power supply. Maybe you got to turn off some guns. You know, give us like that type of in-depth stuff and throw it in the game. Give it to us.
I did see some people were, when they were starting the battles, they would immediately shut down their quantum drive so that way they could put more power into other things. So that's kind of, there are some of those tactics already where people are figuring out what they need to shut down, what they can kind of get away with, and then, like you say, at a certain point they'd be able to turn it back on. But yeah, I'd really like to see those things come into play and get figured out. Like you were saying, we jumped into that right away because I think both of us, especially, and obviously our other members, kind of realize how important this system is going to be, and it's nice to be able to get our first hands on it. Obviously, it's not in the PU yet, and it's not going to be for a while, but getting to be able to test it out and figure that out and get that expertise is very important for us. And just being able to play around with it is always nice when we can play around with those new systems, because again, it is going to be a fundamental change to how people work on it, like how they fly their ships, how they interact and think about this stuff. So it's been nice for us as Wave Ones, and just being, and the fact that they opened it up to the PTU system. Obviously, it's still called EPTU, but they are opening it up to the waves, so we are able to get in there. They didn't have it in Evocati very long. It was in there a couple of weeks, but they were opening it up to other people, so we were able to get in there and test it out. So it's been pretty exciting to see what an engineering already is and what we kind of hope it to be in the future. I think we kind of have some exciting things that we're looking forward to, or that we have in our minds that we hope engineering adds on, and having those, like the life support and the fire and all that stuff, all those systems that are going to come into play. Again, it's going to change the way the ships work, how we interact with it. Like you said, people have to figure out how to manage their power, how to reroute, how to kind of move things around, shut things down if their systems go out. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point about the RMC and repairing, and like how much does it repair, and like how, like the Carrack, can you take the component and take it up to the 3D printer and fully repair it, or do you have to go to a station or somewhere that can handle components and fix it up? Are you going to have to go see an expert to do that, or will we be able to take care of that out in the black? I do hope we can, because I think that, like you said, if you just have the gun and you're just repairing real quick, I do agree with you. It would make sense to kind of get it up to a certain level, but then you should be able to take it back to your base or to some specific place that you can kind of get it up to par. Obviously, it won't be the same as a brand new component, but it'd be a little more patched together. There'd be some duct tape on the outside, hopefully.
Drake branded duct tape.
Yes. There better be some Drake branded duct tape.
There's got to be some Drake. I'm telling you, they need to sell that on the website. They would sell it. They would sell duct tape that just says Drake on it. Yeah, going more into the systems, I remember, I want to say it was like 2 years ago, 2022. There was the rumors of the Argo MCR. Do you remember this? The master crafting vehicle or something, MCV maybe? Don't remember what the acronym meant, but it was very vague, and it leaned towards a repair build station type thing, which could, I imagined the Argo raft base, but fill it out in the bottom where you could take components, put it into like a small crucible type thing, like the big crucible repair ship. But you just take the components or weapons in there, and it can repair them, and you can take them out. So it'll be a small ship just to repair components. Or like a small repair ship like the Vulcan. But like its specialty would be repairing components and like upgrading them or overclocking them or tweaking the stock manufacturing stats. And that's the whole point of the ship, is to just do that. Like, yeah, I could probably do like simple repairs like the Vulcan can, because like the Vulcan's kind of like a 3-in-1 type ship, but we don't have a small scale repair ship. All we have is that big crucible. As far as I can think of, like the only two I can think of is the Vulcan and the Crucible. And the Vulcan kind of it's multi-purposed, so it doesn't really fit the role of a small repair craft. But yeah, if the Argo MCV, MCR, whatever the heck it was called, comes into fruition, it would be nice to have a, like I said, Argo raft, but like the part where the boxes are, just extend that out into like a garage where you could take up to size 3, maybe even size 4 components, put them in, repair it, overclock it, tweak it, pull it out, give it back to the client. And maybe even have like one drone that sits on top that can disconnect and do basic repairs.
Well, and that could tie into like the capital size ships, where you fly the drone in and either pull the component out with the drone, or just go in and repair it with the drone. That'd be kind of cool if you had to navigate a capital ship with a drone just to go in and fix it. In my mind, and I'm really right now thinking of a whole bunch of Fallout stuff because we've been playing Fallout 76 a lot. So in drones, I'm thinking of the iBot is in the picture I have in my head. Yeah. And then, like you said, that garage having the different workbenches where you can do different things. Like you said, I like that idea.
That's what I was thinking about too.
Yeah, being able to do that overclocking and tweaking. Like I can't remember what they called the specificity of the engineer. There's like those three tiers or three levels that they had, and I cannot remember what it was called, the tweaker or whatever it was called. But somebody that does that has that specialization where they go in and kind of get the systems overclocked or can output higher.
Tinkerer,
yeah.
Fun fact: I'm actually in Fallout 76 right now. I looked because I was looking at a Tinker bench.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So having those specializations, and again, maybe it is a specific workbench that does that kind of thing, and tying it in with that ship would be cool because you could, like you say, pull in those components, do different things with them, and then give them back out, and you'd have that specialization. You could have it in your fleet. You could have it flying alongside. You have it as a support craft with, say, the Kraken stays back and launches all of our ships that we need to send out. But then when they come back, we can kind of repair those systems. We can tweak them. We can kind of upgrade them, kind of make them output better, that kind of thing. And again, that's another specialization. We've talked about having those specialists in engineering, and that's a whole other branch that we haven't even really talked about yet. Having those, I think they said there were three different types of engineers, if I remember right. But
that's a lot.
Yeah. And so having those people with those specializations, and then, like you say, tying in a whole ship for that kind of thing. I mean, that ties into the engineering. Working with all the different components, you're going to have to have that knowledge as well. What components go in what ships, and what's the most advantageous for what the op is right now. Because I'm sure there will be. I mean, they've kind of changed out how effective some of the components are at the moment, but when that gameplay does come back and they upgrade it, you are going to have to change those out and have better performing ones for those longer distances. I mean, in Stanton, we have the XL1 and the TS2 are our buddies because we can get across the system. But when we go into Pyro, we're going to have a little more efficient systems, quantum drives especially, but some of the other systems will be specialized as well. Obviously, they have the industrial versus stealth versus military setup, so we will have to think about that more. And so we will have those people that will be specialized in that and know those systems inside and out. And again, that all ties into engineering and how much power you'll have and how much you can, like, how many components you'll have to shut down to be able to cover all your shields and that kind of thing. And you'll have to think about how all those components play together. If they play nicely or they hate each other, you're going to have to think about that and think about power management and everything we've been talking about.
And you know, like it's just going to get bigger. You know, this is just tier 1. Think about it, like, you know, in like 2 more years when the game releases, right?
Yeah, 1.0, baby.
It's 1.0. I don't know why we're going back to 1.0. I mean, we're already on 3.23, but I mean, but yeah, it's just going to get bigger. There's just going to be more to it. And like I said, like right now, it's more than I thought, but I think it's at the right level to where we need it by the end of the year. This year we're supposed to be changing Star Citizen to what I always refer to as Star Citizen 2, mainly because I'm making fun of Overwatch. And when they did Overwatch 2, it's the exact same game.
And you had to pay for it again.
No, it's free. It's free. Yeah, to pay for it. You had to pay for the single player that sucked. But the Star Citizen is changing, and this year we're adding a new system. We're adding a bunch of new HUDs and overlays and functionality and gameplay and star maps and HUDs and FPS weapons, and I think engineering kind of fits this role. We have the UI visuals coming this next patch 3.23. Next patch we are getting the new system 4.0 hopefully, and then the patch after that we got one more patch this year. We got the Q4 patch, which a lot of people keep saying it's still going to be base building. I don't think base building is coming this year based on the way it was always said in the thing where it's starting development. So it's probably not coming. So they have another stuff to do on that one, which they can add the engineering. They can add maybe some cargo salvage or even add repair. Let's get repair going in game.
Refining.
Repair and rearm. With engineering, that'd be a perfect patch. Because you could drop the Vulcan with that patch. The Crucible.
Yes, please. Drop the Vulcan.
Yeah. It's there's a lot that you can do with that patch. And it'll also have drones. Because a lot of people think we're going to be getting the Apollos, which are supposed to be the first ship with the working drones, if I remember correctly. So we'll have drones. So the Vulcan will be a perfect ship if we get all that going. There's just so much that can happen this year, and I think engineering. Not only do I want it to happen this year, I think we need it to happen this year. I don't know what they plan for next year, but adding engineering next year does not make sense to me unless it's just all gameplay loops. You're adding that, you're adding repair, rearm, medical tier 2, cargo. If you're revamping every single gameplay aspect, sure. But if you're not revamping every single gameplay aspect next year, it needs to be in this year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I definitely think they're shooting for that because they mentioned it at CitizenCon, showed it off, and talked about that it's part of that 12-month thing. So I think they're definitely shooting for engineering this year. And again, they kind of said with those bigger capital ships, which were on track to get the Polaris this year. I think it's got to come and be tied in with the Polaris.
Next patch.
Good luck.
In Fleet Week. It's coming Fleet Week. That's what they said.
Nobody said that.
I said it. Therefore, it is law.
Maybe the summer. I can see the midsummer patch, maybe. Yeah, so that's going to tie in. So I think that has to come in and tie in with that larger ship because they've talked about that's the kind of key holdout for starting to bring in the capital ships. I know a lot of people are wanting the Idris to follow quickly, but that's obviously still good. I still think they're going to hold off until Squadron 42 for the Idris. I really think they want to. Obviously, they're showing it off, showing it to us, but I still think they made that promise or made that a statement that they will hold off until Squadron 42. So I really think they will kind of hold that back as kind of a special thing. Obviously, they've been bringing in the F8s and all the other things, so that could very well change. But I wouldn't hold my breath on getting an Idris for anytime soon until.
What do you think the Q4 patch is? It's Squadron 42 with the Idris, man. That's all it is. Oh hey, welcome to CitizenCon. 2024. For all you at home, you can now play Squadron 42. For everyone who's here, have fun.
Yeah. I was just gonna say they are saying this is supposed to be the biggest CitizenCon ever and all that stuff, and
Which is nuts because last year was amazing. The one that we went to.
Yeah, it was
like last year was so much stuff, and they made the bold promise of everything within 12 months, which honestly we're on track for. I actually just recently rewatched both days of CitizenCon, and we are well on track for all of that to come this year.
I was gonna say a majority of it is coming in 323. Obviously, some things are pushed back a little bit, but it's like most everything is just
like the hangars.
But it's supposedly pushed back to a .x patch, so I definitely
which is still the same patch.
Yeah, it's still a 323 branch. That was the thing I heard them say when they were talking about the cargo during the SCL that had me more confident that it is close, because they did say like it's in the branch. It's not like it's a child of 323. It's not. It's still in dev, so it's there. They're just making those final tweaks, and obviously something is pretty broken if they couldn't put it in and didn't even get it into testing. But it's still good that it's under 323. So they are close. They are going to get it out there to us, but obviously they have to delay it a little bit. I would rather them delay it and have it working, especially when it's going to be something that has to do with calling our ships and that kind of thing. It's a kind of a fundamental thing that needs to actually work for us. So they are going to be moving that back, and that's going to it'll be good when it does come out, because they'll be polishing it a little longer. But yeah, again, that's going to all tie in. So
I'm going to go off on a little limb right here, based on, because we did just get the ISC about the cargo elevators. So I have a question, and I know they kind of already answered this question, but I need to deep dive a little bit further into this question. So I already know that when the cargo elevators go online, the personal hangars, it is attuned to the largest ship you have. Now, the issue that I have is they have not stated, at least as far as I know, is it attuned to the largest ship you have purchased, the largest ship you have in game, and does that include loaner ships if it's the latter? So, for instance, I have a Polaris, which is my largest ship that I currently own at this point in time. However, it's not in game. So will I get a hangar Polaris size? Or would it be my largest in-game ship? And if it's my largest in-game ship, would it be my loaner of the Hammerhead? So would it be a Hammerhead size hangar? But like, where is that? And then is this ever going to change? Like, I know they said when you buy a bigger ship, it will not change. Will it change in the next patch? Like, if I had an account today with a Mustang, and then I decided, hey, I really like this game, and I bought a Cutlass, will I forever have to use a public hangar? Forever? Or will I eventually get the correct hangar?
I think he did specify that for 323, it'll be like you said, the public. It'll still be instanced, but it'll be public hangar. I think they said they are working on that, where it will. I don't know if they know how it's going to work. I would assume you'd have to store all your personal items and then be able to move over to a bigger hangar. Or they've also talked about how you'll be able to purchase or rent bigger hangars. So you would be able to have that larger hangar with the bigger ship. And like you said, they haven't said, but I'm pretty sure the way he was talking, it sounded like it was going to be your largest purchased ship, but then, like you say, it would probably be. I'm assuming it would have to be including your loaners, because how many people have a Carrack because they have something bigger, or some of those other ships. I would imagine. Again, like you said, they haven't specified some of these things, but just the way it sounded like when I was watching the SEL, made it sound like it would be your largest, whatever your largest ship that, and the way it the way it sounded to me was purchased because he didn't say anything about bought ships in game necessarily. So that also has me thinking that they are. I know we've debated it and said like don't expect to not have a wipe. So the way it was sounding to me was going to be purchased, and then whatever you buy in game that would happen to be bigger would be in those instance hangers, but not your personal hanger. So
personal ones.
And
so it'll be
again, he specifically said just for the 323 patch, but they would be reinventing or looking at how that works in the future.
Okay, so if whatever ship you have, so like let's say I have an Idris, I'll have an Idris size hanger.
No, I think it would be whatever your loaner is.
It would be whatever the loaner
Idris.
is. Okay, so the hammerhead.
Your largest in-game
loaner. The largest ship you have in game that's attuned to your count, whether purchase nor loaner.
Yes.
So for me, for instance, my largest hanger would be hammerhead size.
Yes. Yeah, I believe that's how like I said, that's how it sounded to me, or how it came across to me when he was talking about it, because they did kind of, again, not specify some of those points that you made, but kind of did address like how it was going to work, especially for the 323 patch. It's going to be your, like you say, your largest account attributed ship, and I think generally they do count the loaners as your, I don't want to say owned ships.
As your ships.
Yeah. Your ships.
They're your ships, just not owned ships.
Exactly. So I think they will base it, again, speculation, but I do think they will base it on that largest loaner or owned ship. But again, they didn't, like, they really avoided saying anything about purchase ships in game. They basically said, if you purchase these ship afterwards, especially in game, it's going to go to an instanced hanger, not a personal hanger.
Yep, there you go. So if you have a Mustang, don't buy another ship until 4.0 when you can get a new hanger.
Again, you can still have instance.
No money till 4.0.
I did hear something interesting that somebody was, like, another person speculating about how the instance hangers are going to work. The way they were saying it, which I don't know, it doesn't seem true to me. They were saying, like, if you set up, you get the instance hanger on, like, a Lagrange point or whatever, and you set it up with your stuff, or whether it's cargo or a ship or whatever, and they were saying, like, if you log out and come back in, it's still going to be there. I don't think that's true. I think if you step out of it at all, or if the game moves you out of it and you didn't put your cargo away, you're going to lose it all. So I think that's something to think about. As long as you are physically in the hangar, and again, this is speculation on my part, and just from the way I heard it in the SCL.
You're right. Once you leave the hangar, it's gone.
And I think even, like, if you log out for the night and come back, it's gone. Like, it's not like they're not going to leave that in there for you.
Yeah. If it's not your hangar and you do anything to leave that hangar, whatever's there is gone.
Yep. And they said it's, especially for 323, it's cleaned up, it's thrown away, it doesn't just go back into your inventory, it's gone. So don't think it's just going to get stored away. Obviously your ship will, but any cargo that you had laying around the hangar, it's out of there. You just lost that money if you paid for cargo, or if you had a specific hanger flare or something out, it's gone, or whatever it is. So just expect that, because like I said, I heard that and I was like, that doesn't sound right at all to me. Like, you can't just log out for the night, come back into your instance hanger and have your stuff ready to go again. Maybe if the cargo is loaded in your ship, it'll get stored, but if it's in the hangar and you have it setting out, don't expect it to be there when you get back.
Exactly. Honestly, that's how it should be.
Oh yeah, it definitely should be cleaned up, and even in the future, like you said, it's not technically your hangar. It's just an instance hangar that you get access to for the moment, and you can do what you can stay in there for as long as you want. But then once you leave, or once you take an action that would make you leave, it's done. It's out. So I think people need to think about that and get that in their head. So just kind of expect that going forward.
Yeah, mainly just wanted to kind of get that question out there, because that's the one that I've been having personally. It's like, well, what happens? Like I know they said it's going to be that, but what about this?
And like I said, they haven't really specified some of those things, but that was just the way when I was watching SEL, that's the way I took it. The way Chris, I think, was talking about it in the cargo SEL. So I think we've covered engineering and some other questions that we've had pretty well. So I think it's time to move on to the final segment of the episode, of every episode. And I accidentally called it the ship matrix, but I was quickly corrected.
Yeah, you threw me for a loop, because you're like, oh yeah, you got the ship matrix loaded, and I'm like, why do I need the ship matrix loaded? And I'm over here typing in the ship matrix to get it ready, and then
I want you to have the entire ship matrix ready to go every episode.
It's up. I'm ready. It's all here. I literally just have to type in whatever ship comes up, and it'll bring me right to the RSI page.
Nice. So instead of the ship matrix, the ship wheel of doom, or whatever else we want to call it.
Yeah. So as normal, I'm going to spin a wheel. It's going to give us a random ship, and this does include every single ship in the game, even ones not purchasable. As we had last episode, we had the Bengal.
And it'll never.
We went from the smallest ship to the largest ship. And then we kind of discuss it, gave it a review based on our personal likes and the org's likes. And remember, what we say is our personal thoughts and should not be the final say and done. And we score it out of 10 on each. So there's 2 scorings from both of us. All right, you ready for this?
Yes.
Wheel spinning. What do we got today? This is going to be a long one. We have... Let's make a little fun out of this one, Bob.
Oh, no.
How big of a ship do you think this is? Do you think it's a extra small, medium, large, extra large, capital?
I'm going to go medium. Just because
Smaller.
I think it's really... So.
It's an extra small.
Another
to be
snub.
exact. Actually, yes. And it's a snub that we are very familiar with. We have the Pisces C8R Rescue.
I think we've definitely touched on it in some of the previous podcasts, but
A little bit.
just a little bit.
I mean, what's there to say? It's the Pisces, which is probably the best looking snubcraft in the game. Is it a snubcraft? Because it has a quantum. So it would technically not be a small snubcraft. It would be a shuttlecraft, correct?
Yeah, that's probably accurate. I think they still... Well, I think CIG classifies it as a snub, but I do agree with you that it would more likely be a shuttlecraft, and that makes sense. And one thing that we should mention, that all of the Pisces are specifically designed to go with the Carrack. I mean, we've talked about that before.
Yes.
I guess I don't know how to say that. either the Carrick's Bay was made for the Pisces, or the Pisces was made for the Carrick's Bay. And maybe
What
it
came
doesn't
first,
matter
the
how
chicken or the egg?
Right, yeah, exactly. Maybe it doesn't really matter what that is, but those two do go hand in hand. And again, we've talked about how well they do work together. I wish it still worked like it used to, where we could put stuff on top of the hanger on the Carrick, but I can't complain too much. They never said that was going to be a thing, but that was nice that we could have a pocket carrier with our Pisces.
Yeah, it was very nice. But that aside, length 13 meters, 10-meter beam, and a height of 3.2 meters. So very small. This one doesn't have any cargo capacity either, unlike its counterparts that carry 2 SEO cargo. Or is it 4? I think it's 2. It is 4. So it doesn't have the cargo capacity of 4. Because the cargo was replaced with a tier 3 medical bed, as well as a medic station, I guess you can call it. It's a sink with drawer was filled with some drugs. There's not really much you can say about it. Like we said it all, like how often we use these things, and I don't go anywhere unless it's loaded in my Carrick. Like I don't take my Carrick anywhere. That's the first thing I do is land the Carrick, get it loaded with the Pisces, and then do whatever I'm doing for the day.
Yeah. What?
It's. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's interesting that a lot of people used to fly the Cuddy Red, especially doing bunkers and stuff, because they could have that respawn point. But once they took that out, but then once the C8R came in, this became the kind of bunker runner for a lot of people. So I think in general, in Star Citizen, it's probably one of the most popular ships for those small missions. Like you said, you can't really hold a lot of cargo, but you can throw some boxes on the floor, and then you've got a little bit of space to kind of put some extra stuff. You got that fridge that you can throw junk into, or med pens, and you can get.
You got the 2 lockers up top.
Yeah, and well, I think that's one of the things that we kind of found out about and we're excited about, because it has separate lockers too. They are. You have a crew locker and a patient locker. So it does. I don't know how much we've tested who has access, but I would just it should have.
Everybody has access to both.
Okay, I wasn't sure if what I would like to see in the future is if only party members could do the crew locker, and then only other people could do the patient locker. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
it's something that could be in the future, but. That is a nice extra feature that you do have those 2 lockers for storage. I know we have, especially when we're doing Admo events or whatever, we load those lockers up with extra supplies and things. Again, this has just become one of the most versatile and useful ships in the games. Again, being in the Stanton system and in a smaller system where this smaller ship can jump to those faraway planets. You may have to make a couple jumps, but you are able to do that. That's the thing I like about this ship. It's become one of the most popular ones. Obviously, we utilize it for other things. We again, like you said, throw it in the Carrick or just have it with us at all times. So it's definitely one of our most used ships as well.
It's like our med guns at this point. Like if you have a Carrick and you don't have a C8R, you get a talking to at this point.
Yeah, you're not equipped for the day.
Yeah, like go back, try again tomorrow. For $65 as well, it's it's super cheap. Just a little bit above that starter ship price. So like if you have a Mustang, that's $30 extra, and you have a C8R, vastly better. Just a C8, you don't even need an R if you don't want to do medical. Just a C8 is just a way better ship to start off with than like the 2 generic starter ships. Benefit of the C8R as of now, is it does have that tier 3 medical bed. So if you do get injured with small injuries, you can heal yourself up. You're good to go. And as of right now, it does replenish food and water, which is why it's a very widely used ship for Atmo events. You mentioned we do Atmo. Almost everyone who works Atmo staff has a CAR, and if not, we get you a CAR because it's infinite food and water, essentially, as of right now. You know, you can always heal yourself. You know, racers always getting hurt like right before the start, so having something like this nearby helps. Like I said, it's a perfect ship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to change anything about it. I think the design of it on the inside is phenomenal. They even still have a section for the decontamination once that's in game. So everything inside will be sterile, clean. The way the bed is hooked up, they do have a jump seat in the back still for your medic. There's the console to the side. I can't think of anything that I would want to change on it personally.
Yeah, like you said, it's they really thought about the layout and setup of it. It's has that utility, that usefulness that pretty much everybody needs at the moment. What I like about it, thinking about the future of it, will be that being that tier 3 will be that stabilization of the patient to get them back to the hospital or get them to our carrick or get them to wherever we need to move them to, get them out of danger, get them healed up enough to move them. It'll be that stabilization, that ambulance that gets us back to a bigger, higher tier bed or a more capable station that we need to get them to.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I still plan to have my CAR and my Polaris, as well as my Galaxy, and even, you know, the Hope when we get to that point. You know, like the ship's going to be with me. And whatever ship I'm in, I plan to have a CAR with it. Yep. You know, it's just a perfect pairing to no matter what ship I'm in, it's going to be useful that one time, and that's all it needs to be. You know, like most of the time nowadays, we bring the whole carrick down, we land the carrick, we disembark from there using like an Ursa or something, and then we, you know, drive into locations to heal people. Yeah. Mainly because like once you leave the carrick, you don't have a marker for it, you can lose it, it's gone, you gotta get a new one. But in the future, we can put a marker on the carrick, we can actually go down to the CAR, you know, go down to these places a lot closer, a lot easier, get in there, deploy, get out. And if somebody's in a critical condition, you know, we can put them on the bed and keep them healed up and stable while we transport them to the carrick, which you can't do with a ground vehicle yet. Because of the rumors that were going around about a special Ursa rover, but like, trust me, once that's in game, that's going to be matching well with this CAR. I do want to say, when they released the ship, they had that blue paint, the code blue concierge paint. And most of the time, the concierge paints kind of just go away, right? Like, you have them for that first initial week or two, and then they're gone. But like, I think it's still up for sale. You can still buy the code blue paint. I anticipated it going away. Bob, do you remember how much money worth of paint I have in buyback for this ship?
I think at the time it was $500 worth or something like that.
It's $500 worth of paint for the CAR code blue, because we loved this paint so much, and we wanted to make sure that any member who comes in that door has the opportunity to get that blue paint, regardless if it's on the store or not anymore. And so I had $100 of credit and just bought the paint, sold it, bought the paint, sold it, bought the paint, sold it, bought the paint for $500. That's 50 paints, 50 of them. And I've sold 3 already. So yeah, a lot of extra paint for that ship.
It is a good paint. It really
It's
I mean, it matches our
beautiful.
logo and it fits in with our aesthetic.
Matches the logo. It has the plus sign on it. Looks fantastic. Matches the Carrick a little bit when we were running the blue Carricks. Now we have switched over to the whites because the white just looks a little bit better. But it still matches because it's still white and blue, which matches our uniform.
It
I don't know. Is there
matches
anything else you want to add to this?
it matches the what is it? The midnight or moon stuff for the Ursa.
Oh, the moonlight. I think moon something, whatever it's
I
called.
can't remember what it is, but
Yeah. It's
the
the
one I have
blue and
on
white
mine.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Lynx exclusive one, but it works on all the Ursas.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I can add much. Like you said, we've kind of covered it. It's one of our favorite ships. It's pretty simple for what it actually is, but the usefulness of that simplicity is you can't really match it anywhere else.
So I guess I'll go ahead and start off with the rating. Personally, it's a 10. Like I said, it's like my med gun at this point. I always fly the larger ships, which means I'm usually flying a Carrack. It's always in the Carrack. Like first thing I do, I don't care if there's something else we're doing in the meantime. I gotta put my Pisces in my Carrack first.
Yeah.
What about you?
I can't argue with that. That's like you said. I'm the same way. That's one of the first things I put in there. I have my standard loadout for the Carrack, and it's at the top of the list. I mean, that's the number one thing that has to go in there. So, and just usefulness, like you said, for whether it's a runabout for if we need to go down somewhere real quick, or like I said, if we're running a mission or something, if we're dispatching somebody, and even just personal. Like I fly it quite a bit if I'm just running around a station or something and need to go back and forth. Or we had to rescue somebody who got either I can't remember if their ship blew up or something outside of the station, and my first go-to was to grab the C8R and go out and rescue them. So it's pretty much a go-to. Sometimes longer distance, I'm in a cutter, but if there's something important that I need to do, and again, if I personally need to rescue somebody, or if I need to run down to the planet or do something like that, the C8R is my go-to. So 10 as well.
And I think we also did forget to mention one thing about this ship is with it in our Carrack, we can be doing a training mission. We could be helping Atmo. We could be doing another mission with other groups. We could be doing something completely different with the Carrack. And it's like, hey, somebody needs a rescue beacon. We don't have to fly that Carrack away. We don't have to have another team on standby. We could take the team that's there, grab that CAR, dispatch them while we keep the main base at whatever event we're doing. And that's crucial for certain things, like having a respawn point for them there as of now, because it is a temporary respawn point for the Carrack. But even in the future, we'll have the Galaxy as a respawn point, because it does have the tier 1, and we have multiple Pisces in the back there. And being able to just keep that there, stationed, not moving, we have these Pisces just shooting back and forth out of that thing and performing the rescue, so we can still get the people without having to mobilize a larger ship, multiple people, multiple teams, and we have one ship that does it all.
Yeah, well, and we've done that before where we've had to deploy to multiple. I think we had multiple beacons come up, and we could fly by a planet onto the next beacon and flew the Carrack down. So there are those. I mean, again, it's a, like you were saying, shuttlecraft makes the most sense calling this thing, because we can kind of deploy from the main ship and do those multiple missions and covering beacons and that thing. And like I said, during those events, we can kind of break away. We have the Carrack stationary or have a bunch of people on it, and then we can kind of jump over to somebody else in need and we're not missing anything. We have that extra shuttlecraft that kind of helps us out.
Before the org, God, I wish I could give it an 11. It's becoming more of our standard ship. I think over the Cutlass based on the new ship prices, and this one still being very cheap. They're very easy to use, very simple. They do lack the defense versus the Cutlasses. Cutlasses are still good training ships because, you gotta know how to do a medium ship at least. But I do believe the C8R is the ship that most people have in the org. It is probably our most purchased ship behind the Galaxy at this point. So it's just kind of an invaluable thing, and yeah, so it's easily a 10 for the org. Like I said, if I can give it a higher score than 10, I would, because of how. I mean, what a better ship for a medical org than a medical base ship?
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I go with 10 as well because, like you say, we use it for all of our ops. I mean, it's always there with us, whether we're using it or not. And one thing you were saying about having it on there with the Carrick or whatever, it gives us multiple beds. Like if we had multiple injuries, we'd be able to take care of more than one person at a time. Obviously, we have the extra kind of recovery beds, but we'd be able to heal people with different levels of injury at the same time. We wouldn't have to wait. We wouldn't have to keep them in line or anything. We'd be able to take care of all of that at the same time. And we have with our missions, we've had some higher tier injuries that people have had to take care of. But then I just got a couple scratches, tier 3 leg or whatever. I'll run up to the Pisces. So, I mean, we definitely utilize it in that way where we're, and that kind of goes to that future gameplay where we're like an Apollo or a Galaxy where we're having different levels of beds and can pick and choose what people need and kind of prioritize. We are already able to do that a little bit with having the Carrick partnered with the Pisces.
Yeah, so it's hand in hand. Like I said, it's until the Apollo's out. I don't think, even after the Apollo goes out, I don't think the Pisces in the Quantum Jump fleet will be going anywhere. I think it will be, we've talked about if we were to purchase in game 20 plus ships of one type for members to use, what ship would it be? It's usually either the Cutlass or the Pisces. And I think most of us kind of lean towards the Pisces because we don't need to be offensive. We don't need to be, going in with a bunch of guns and shields. We just need to get in, heal, and get out.
And again, we've got those protocols and things for where if we do get caught in a hairy situation, we do have the ability to call our security, and they'll be able to jump in. Our operators will be able to jump in and take care of those dangers for us. So, like you say, we don't really need to have the higher firepower necessarily when we're doing an initial jump. Like you say, the Pisces kind of fulfills all our needs, and it's just a nice ship to fly, and easy. And again, we can split up into small teams and things like that with the ship. So yeah, it's just a good all-rounder.
I mean, can't say much more about it.
Well, with that, I think that's it's been a good episode. We've talked for quite a while about engineering and covered what the cargo entails, and then obviously one of our favorite ships, the C8R. We will see you in the next one.
Yep. Have a good night, guys.